Nobody expected the shield wall to break. Not the Jarl, not the veterans, not the 19-year-old boy holding his father's shield for the first time. When the line shattered, he had 7 seconds to make a choice that would define the rest of his life. Run and live as a coward. Stay and die with honor. What happened in those 7 seconds didn't just decide his fate. It changed what every warrior in that clan believed about courage. Northern Fjord, winter, 887 AD. The kind of cold that turns breath into ice and makes steel burn your hands when you grip it too long. A Viking war band, 40 men strong, stood in formation on a rocky beach. Behind them, 3 longships pulled onto the shore. Ahead of them, an enemy force twice their size. This wasn't a raid. This was survival. The boy's name was Orm, 19 winters old, tall but not yet filled out, strong enough to carry a shield, but not strong enough to be in the front line. Not yet. His father had been front line, 20 years holding the center of the shield wall, 20 years never stepping back, 20 years of honor and respect. Then last winter, a fever took him. 3 days of burning, then gone. Orm inherited the shield. Thick oak, reinforced with iron bands, scarred from 100 battles. Heavy, so heavy his arms shook the first time he lifted it. The other warriors noticed. Some smiled with encouragement. Others looked away, uncomfortable. A few whispered when they thought he couldn't hear. Boy's not ready. Should have given the shield to someone with experience. His father would be ashamed. Orm heard every word, felt every doubt like a blade between his ribs. But he couldn't refuse the shield. Refusing meant dishonoring his father's memory. Refusing meant admitting weakness. Refusing meant becoming invisible in a culture where only warriors mattered. So he trained, every day, lifting rocks to build strength, practicing formations with men who'd fought in 20 battles while he'd fought in none, listening to the veterans tell stories around fires, trying to learn what courage actually felt like. The Jarl, Bjorn Ironside, was a man carved from stone and scar tissue. 50 winters old, missing 2 fingers on his left hand and blind in 1 eye. Still the most dangerous man in the clan. He'd watched Orm train, never said much, just watched with that one good eye, calculating, measuring. The night before the battle, Bjorn pulled Orm aside. "You afraid?" the Jarl asked. Orm wanted to lie, wanted to say no, he was ready, he was his father's son. But something in Bjorn's eye made lying impossible. "Yes," Orm said quietly. Bjorn nodded. "Good. Fear keeps you alive. It's panic that kills you." "What's the difference?" "Fear makes you careful. Panic makes you run. Tomorrow, when the shield wall forms, you'll feel both. The trick is knowing which one to listen to." "How do I know?" Bjorn smiled, grim and knowing. "You'll know. The moment comes, you'll know exactly what kind of man you are." That night, Orm couldn't sleep. He lay in the longhouse, listening to the veterans snore, watching shadows dance on the roof beams. His father's shield rested beside him. In the darkness, he traced the scars on its surface with his fingers. Each dent, each crack, each iron band bent and hammered back into place. How many times had his father stood behind this shield while men tried to kill him? How many times had he been afraid, but stayed anyway? Orm wanted to ask him, wanted to hear his voice one more time, telling him what to do, how to be brave. But the dead don't answer questions. They just leave behind shields too heavy to carry and legacies too big to fill. Dawn came cold and gray. The warband assembled on the beach in silence. No speeches, no prayers. Just grim men checking weapons and testing shield straps. The enemy was already visible across the rocky field. 60, maybe 70 warriors, local clan that controlled this territory. They'd refused to let Bjorn's ships pass, demanded tribute. Bjorn had refused. Now they would fight. The shield wall formed. Front line, 15 men. Second line, 15 more. Third line, the reserve, 10, including Orm. Standard Viking formation. Front line does the killing. Second line replaces the wounded. Third line stays back unless disaster strikes. Orm stood in the third line, shield raised, heart hammering so hard he thought the men beside him could hear it. The veteran to his right, a scarred man named Ulf, glanced at him. "First battle?" Orm nodded. "You'll piss yourself when the screaming starts. Everyone does. Don't worry about it." "What if I run?" Ulf's expression didn't change. "Then you run, but you can't ever come back." The enemy formed their own shield wall. Bigger, more men, better position on higher ground. But Bjorn's warriors had fought together for years. They knew each other's movements, trusted each other's strength. Quality against quantity. The Jarl stood in the center of the front line, raised his sword. "Shield wall!" he roared. The warband roared back, a sound like thunder, a sound meant to terrify. A sound Orm's voice joined weakly, his throat too tight with fear to scream properly. The enemy advanced, slow, deliberate, shields locked, one step at a time. Bjorn's wall held position. Let them come. Conserve energy. The distance closed. 50 paces, 40, 30. Orm could see individual faces now, men just like him, scared, angry, some young, some old, all carrying weapons, all coming to kill. 20 paces. His hands trembled on the shield grip. Sweat froze on his forehead. 10 paces. The veteran beside him muttered something, a prayer maybe, or a curse. Orm couldn't tell. 5 paces. Bjorn screamed, "Brace!" The shield walls collided. The sound was unlike anything Orm had ever heard. Wood crashing into wood, metal scraping metal, men grunting, shouting, screaming. The front line held. Barely. The impact pushed them back half a step, but they recovered, dug in, pushed forward. Second line moved up, supporting, adding weight to the push. Orm's line stayed back, watching, waiting. The battle became a grinding, brutal thing, not the glorious combat the Skalds sang about, just exhausted men trying to kill each other in the smallest possible space. Frontline warriors stabbed through gaps in shields, short, brutal thrusts, aiming for throats, bellies, thighs, anywhere unprotected. Men fell, from both sides, not cinematic deaths, just sudden collapse. One moment fighting, next moment on the ground, bleeding. Orm watched a warrior he'd trained with take a spear through the throat. Watched him drop, hands clutching the wound, eyes wide with shock and confusion. Ulf muttered beside him, "That's Gunnar, good man. Had 3 sons." Past tense. Had. The shield wall shifted. One of Bjorn's frontline warriors went down. Second line immediately filled the gap. Perfect discipline, years of training. Another fell, another gap filled. But the enemy kept pushing. More numbers. Fresh warriors rotating in while Bjorn's men grew tired. Orm saw it happening, saw the front line buckling under pressure, saw veterans who'd fought in 50 battles starting to give ground. Bjorn's voice cut through the chaos. "Hold the line!" They tried. They held. For 30 seconds. Then something changed. One of the frontline warriors, Orm couldn't see who, stumbled. Maybe took a hit to the head. Maybe just exhausted, doesn't matter. He stumbled, shield dropped, and the enemy surged through the gap, like water breaking through a dam. 3 enemy warriors pushed into the gap. The man to the left tried to close it, got a spear in the shoulder, fell. The gap widened. More enemy poured through. And then, 7 seconds that changed everything. Second 1, the shield wall broke. Not gradually, instantly. One moment a solid line, next moment chaos. Orm watched the front line collapse in real time. Veterans scattering, trying to regroup, failing. Second 2, the second line tried to fill the gap. Too late. Too many enemy already through. They broke too. Panic spread like fire. You could see it in men's eyes. The realization. We're going to lose. We're going to die. Second 3, Ulf, the veteran beside Orm, took half a step back. Not running, just adjusting, preparing. "Boy," he said quietly, "this is bad." Second 4, the enemy kept coming, through the broken line, flanking, surrounding. Bjorn's warriors were being cut apart. Orm's hands shook so badly he nearly dropped his shield. His legs felt like water. Every instinct screamed, "Run! Run now! Run and live!" Second 5, half of Orm's third line had already broken, turned and ran toward the ships. Not all of them, but enough. The reserve was collapsing. One of the fleeing warriors was Haldor, veteran of 10 battles, respected fighter, and he was running. If Haldor runs, running isn't cowardice. Running is survival. Second 6, Orm saw Bjorn, still fighting, surrounded by 6 enemy warriors, blood streaming down his face. Still, swinging his sword, still screaming commands nobody could follow. The Jarl was going to die. The warband was going to die. Everyone who stayed was going to die. Orm could run, join the others sprinting to the ships, push off before the enemy reached them, survive, live to see tomorrow. His legs tensed, ready to bolt. Second 7, Orm saw his father's shield, the weight in his hands, the scars on its surface. 20 years of standing when others ran, 20 years of honor. And he saw the truth Bjorn had told him the night before. The moment comes, you'll know exactly what kind of man you are. This was the moment. Run and live as a coward. Stay and die with honor. Orm made his choice. He didn't run. He stepped forward, raised his father's shield, screamed, not words, just rage and terror and defiance mixed together, charged toward the broken shield wall. Ulf stared at him for half a second, shock and something like pride on his scarred face. Then Ulf followed, shield raised, also screaming. 2 other warriors from the third line saw them charge, saw a 19-year-old boy running toward certain death instead of safety. They followed. 4 men against 60. Suicide. But something shifted in that moment. The running warriors looked back, saw Orm and the others charging, saw them refusing to break, and shame hit them like a physical blow. One stopped running, turned back, rejoined the line. Then another, then 5 more. Within seconds, the entire reserve had stopped fleeing and was charging back into the fight. And the veterans in the front line, those still standing, saw it. Saw the third line returning. Saw a boy who should have run choosing to stay. It changed something in them. Bjorn, bleeding and surrounded, saw Orm crash into the enemy line with his father's shield. Saw him take a sword strike on the oak and iron. Saw him stay on his feet. The Jarl laughed, blood on his teeth. "Reform the wall!" The scattered warriors rallied. Not because the tactical situation improved, it hadn't, They were still outnumbered, still exhausted. They rallied because a 19-year-old boy with no experience and every reason to run had chosen honor over survival. And shame is a more powerful motivator than fear. The shield wall reformed, ragged, desperate, held together by pride and fury instead of discipline. But it held. Orm found himself in the front line now, no longer third reserve, right in the center. Enemy warriors in front of him, weapons trying to kill him. His father's shield took hit after hit, sword strikes, spear thrusts, an axe blow that splintered the top edge. His arms screamed with exhaustion, his lungs burned. Blood, he didn't know whose, splattered across his face. He wanted to run. Every second he wanted to run. He stayed. Ulf fought beside him. "Keep your shield up, boy!" Orm kept it up. A spear came at his face. He blocked, barely. An enemy warrior tried to hook his shield down with an axe. Orm twisted, kept it in place. Another, veteran, wounded but still fighting, appeared on his left. "Not bad for your first battle." The enemy pushed. Bjorn's wall pushed back. Stalemate. Minutes passed. Felt like hours. Then the enemy made a mistake. Their Jarl, trying to break through the center, overcommitted. Stepped too far forward. Lost the protection of his own shield wall. Bjorn saw it. Slammed his shield into the enemy Jarl's, creating a gap. Drove his sword through it. The enemy Jarl went down. And just like that, the enemy's will broke. Not their line, their will. They fell back, slow at first, then faster, retreating toward higher ground, regrouping, but no longer attacking. Bjorn didn't pursue. His warband was too damaged, too exhausted. They'd survived. That was victory enough. The shield wall held position for another 10 minutes, making sure the enemy wasn't coming back. Then, slowly, it collapsed. Not from defeat, from exhaustion. Men sank to their knees. Some vomited. Others just stared at nothing, too tired to move. Orm dropped his father's shield. His arms refused to hold it anymore. He collapsed beside it, shaking, gasping for air. Ulf sat down beside him, also shaking, also gasping. "You stayed," the veteran said quietly. Orm nodded, couldn't speak yet. "Why?" Orm looked at the shield, looked at the new scars on its surface, joining the old ones. "Because running would have been worse than dying." Ulf laughed, tired and bitter and proud all at once. "Now you sound like your father." That night, back at the Longhouse, the survivors gathered around the fire. 13 dead, 8 wounded badly enough they might not fight again, but 39 alive, against an enemy that should have destroyed them. Bjorn stood before the fire, exhausted, bandaged, still Jarl. "Today the shield wall broke," he said quietly. "For the first time in 3 generations, it broke, and we should have died." The warriors listened in silence. "We didn't die because one boy chose honor over survival, because one untested warrior with every reason to run decided to stay." Bjorn turned to Orm. "Stand up." Orm stood, legs still shaking, still exhausted. The Jarl walked to him, pulled something from his belt, his own arm ring, silver, engraved with runes, worth more than most men owned in their lifetime. He slid it onto Orm's arm. "Your father held the center of the shield wall for 20 years. Today, you became the center. Not because you're the strongest, not because you're the most skilled, because when the moment came, you chose to be what the clan needed instead of what fear told you to be. The warriors struck their shields. Slow rhythm, steady, the sound of respect. Orm wanted to cry, wanted to collapse, wanted to scream that he'd been terrified, that he'd almost run, that he wasn't worthy of this honor. But he stayed silent, accepted the arm ring, accepted the weight of what he'd become. Later, alone, he sat with his father's shield, traced the new scars beside the old ones. 7 seconds. That's all it took. 7 seconds to choose the man he would become. Run and live as a coward. Stay and die with honor. He chose an honor, and in those 7 seconds, he learned what his father had known for 20 years. Courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is being afraid and staying anyway. The shield wall broke in 7 seconds. But in those same 7 seconds, a boy became a warrior, not because he was strong, because he refused to run when running was the only reasonable choice. That's what every warrior in the clan learned that day. That's what changed their definition of courage. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stand still when everything inside you screams to run.